morning, everybody, and welcome to the Art as Well. I'm here with Brian Gormley, and we're actually in his studio. I think you live here too.
Yes, I do. Yeah,
you live and work here, and it's a wonderful old Georgian building on Pembroke Road in Dublin 4. And we might have a little sneak around later on and have a look at it. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning. Good morning, Ireland. Good morning, Dublin. Good morning, art world.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for allowing me into your space here. So, Brian, for those of us who don't know you that well, could you give us a little sort of potted history about Brian, where he was brought up,
right,
what sort of early life you had, and why did you end up in Dublin City?
Well, I grew up in New York City in in the 70s in New York, kind of late 60s, early kind of Cold War and spies, kind of a different landscape than we see today. No phone, it was just a different world. As I like to say, I'm an analog guy in the digital world, so I'm having a little trouble moving into.
Hence, we're not doing this on Zoom.
Yeah, very good, exactly. So I grew up in New York City. I had a pretty good upbringing. My father was in the bar business. He was a military man in World War II. He was a B-17, flew a B-17, and then joined the OSS, which became the CIA, and trained the resistance. Jumped into Normandy, 12 days before D-Day, and stayed into the end. Went into the National Guard afterwards. Actually opened up a bar called the Guardsman, which was influenced by his time in England and the English pubs, which America really didn't have. I think he opened it up in 1947 and ran it to 1987 on a month-to-month lease. It had a military theme, and it was very interesting because Andy Warhol lived at 244 Lexington Avenue, and my father's bar was at 243, so it's the place where Andy Warhol came in.
Yeah.
So
did you actually meet him?
I met him, at openings and stuff, but we never hung out. Oh, this is Andy Warhol, Brian, hello, how you are, but no, no close relationship. But he was, he stood out everywhere he went, and yes. A lot of the people that in my kind of the madmen here at my father's bar, a lot of the advertising, people came in. And I remember one time when his Brillo box, because he would go to the local supermarket and get the, the products. I mean, it was kind of, he looked at the, American products as like Andy Warhol, as objects, who's famous compared to Campbell's Soup and Marilyn Monroe. So he basically gave the culture what they wanted.
Do you think Brian was quite contrived then?
Well, it was new. When you're young, it's just out there. You almost don't know what to make of it, but it's in front of you and it seeps into your consciousness. Yes. And the way he did it, I mean, there was money and stuff. I think Father told me a story, some guy that actually designed the Brillo box, only got a couple $100s for his design, where Andy Warhol made an absolute fortune,
yes.
On his design.
Yes.
So it took it to another level. It was kind of almost like a ready-made, it was like Duchamp's ready-made, but it was also, Andy Warhol took it to the next level. Because art was kind of very linear. It was like progressing linear. Now it's everything all over the place. It's like total entropy, every style, everything. Legions and legions of art students coming out, Now everyone is influenced all of a sudden, like street art is a genre. Back in the day, it was a crime.
That's right. Still is here a bit.
And now, they sell spray paint, to do graffiti with. Back in the day, people stole the paint and took razor blades and cut holes into the spray can to get different effects and this or that. I was influenced by the graffiti, it was around me,
yes.
But I did it for maybe like 6 months, in the mid 80s, and then I got caught by the police, and that was it. If I was black, they would have probably beat me up and killed me. And that's what happened. A lot of Michael Stewart was killed by the police, and and Keith Haring was just chalk. I mean, what this guy did with just a white piece of chalk on the blank, things, it was brilliant. It wasn't really graffiti because it was a statement, it was art, but these black, advertising things. So he was just doing kind of advertising for himself. So he wasn't paying the New York Transit System money to put up the posters.
Yeah.
So I think so.
And was he part of that sort of clique?
Oh yeah, he came there early, like 79, and he just had a preformed vision, like a very child, For a long time, art was very alienating. It was all about intellectual, and all of a sudden in the 80s, expression was back in, the human touch was back in, so, and it was exciting. All the different, like Germany, had Baselitz and Kiefer. The Italians had a trans avant-garde, Cucchi, Clemente. We had like, Basquiat, Haring, Schnabel. everyone wants to, keeps asking me about, Basquiat, Jean-Michel Basquiat. It's like a shot that's been heard around the world. I didn't meet Jean-Michel till later, till like 1985, when I was in a group show with him at a place called 80’s, Mokotov Gallery. And he had some work in it, which I didn't actually recognize. I was doing ceramic masks at the time, 80’s. And I was put into the show by a guy I was hanging out with, Noel Mapstead, who liked my work, and another artist, Scott Borofsky, and they recognized my work and got me involved in kind of pop-up shows, they call them now, ABC Rio, the East Village. So I was pretty much showing there between, around 84, I started showing. I wasn't there in the beginning. I was in college. I was up at Cornell University, up in Ithaca, New York. So I kind of arrived on the art scene in New York around, late 82, early 83, and was full on. It was just, but it was still enough room for people to get into group shows, and it was a small community that was growing, where people from all over the world, people could come to the East Village, with no money, or $20 or $30, and all of a sudden they had a community, filmmakers, writers, poets, and it was a very high level. I mean, every time you went out, you were inspired. So every time out, so you said, well, I got to get myself up to scratch, because there was so much talent and stuff, and so it fed you. It made you, want to overachieve and kind of compete and add something new to what you were seeing. So I was in this, and everyone was talking about Jean-Michel, but he didn't have the huge exposure. He was still kind of like underground. He was always off making money in Italy or Europe. So we were in a group show together, and called 80’s, and there was some guy, I thought his work was like these big skulls, and there was this guy, a Spanish guy, that was doing these wire pieces of these big heads. And I said, geez, I want to meet Jean, I love the work. So I got his phone number, and I called him up. I said, hey, Jean, I'm in the group show with you, 80’s. I said, I do the ceramics. And he just kind of grunted. I said, you did the big piece with wire. And he said, no, I never worked in wire. I never worked in wire, and this or that. And he said, well, why don't you just come by and visit the studio? So then I looked around. The thing he did a little, wasn't signature work. There was some writing on it. It was a little, it didn't even look like his work in it, So then that's how I went over to his studio, and I saw, all the amazing work he was doing. So, we hung out together, smoked a joint, and, started talking about art and stuff. And he was actually, funny story, he was very smart. I mean, he'd look right through you. And of course, everyone was enamored with his work and the energy. I mean, I just got it immediately. And he was working in, also doing some silk screen of his drawings and stuff like that. And that's really where I got into taking the drawings I never intended to use for silk screens, and then, kind of my own psychoanalytic drawings, I was reproducing and basically created my own language. And the symbols were, things I was informed by, like, Neolithic, primitive stuff, and I said, wow, there's a lot of this stuff looks like when I was a kid and going to Newgrange, the spirals, the same spirals you see in Ireland, you see in the Dogons, you see in all ancient colors, these different 3 spirals. And it's just, I wanted to be an archaeologist, and I found out that I could excavate myself. These symbols resonated with me, and I could combine them with different colors. And then you had the energy of graffiti, of, juxtaposing different, like, raw emotions done very quickly, all on the same plane. So, and, I started to work with that, and I really became alive as an artist like that, and through meeting,
Yeah, how has your artistic practice evolved over the years? I mean, has it changed much?
It's evolved, absolutely. Yeah, it's evolved. New symbols, different colors, different influences, and I work on lots of work. I mean, paintings I've been working on for 10, 20 years. I do a little bit, leave them, let them gestate, and a lot of times I have to live a little longer in order to finish them. I need more life experience to have that, quality of line. I mean, you can stop, and then all of a sudden it's not going anywhere. You leave the painting for 3-4 months, you go back, all of a sudden different color. It's the energy. It's just time gives kind of energy to a stroke. You can't finish it all in one day. So it's an ongoing process of life and mark making. Enjoying what you're doing, adding to it. It's almost like a scorecard or record of your emotions that are frozen, and you can look back and remember certain moments.
Talking about certain moments,
yeah.
Were there any defining moments in your career that you said, I've made it, I'm here, I've arrived?
Well, I had a show. I did a show. I was in Vienna in 1988, and they put me up at the hotel, and they sold some work, and they made me feel like I've arrived. They took my work to an art fair. It was Chicago Pier, and so this was it's just like, wow, I'm shows, people are putting me up, people are believing in my work. I said, yeah, because you're always doubting yourself. That's the edge. You never think, oh, this is great, everything I do. And a lot of the stuff, when I do it, I'll paint over it, and then one or two times I'll paint over it and I'll have a photo, and I'll look at you and say, wow, I ruined it, because sometimes it's very difficult to realize what you have right in that moment,
Yes.
And so back to Jean, so I was over to the studio once, and he was working, I think at the time, collaborations with Warhol, and he had this big paper on his wall, and the paint was around, it was half done, and he was over in the corner, and I just said to Jean, I said, it was a paintbrush. I was just kind of kidding around. I was going to pick up a brush in his studio. I'm sitting there. He's across from me. And so I just reached for the brush. I said, John, let's collaborate. And he looks me right in the eye. I said, man, don't you try to hustle me. Right in the eye. He says, I'm working with Warhol. Warhol chose me, not you. I was like, yeah, fair play to you, man.
Were you a little bit deflated by that?
Yeah, a little bit, but he looked me right in the eye, man. Don't you try to hustle me. Very, few words. All right, let's smoke another joint. Okay, leave that alone. And
I love it.
So that was, and I was at his last birthday party, a place called Madame Rose's, before he died. I saw him on the street. He said, yo, come to my birthday. And it was, so I went there, and he was DJing in the back, and he gave me like this little black ticket. It said, keep the Long Island teas coming all night for me. So he's in DJ booth. I got a couple. As soon as I get up to the bar, this big bouncer, Mojo, comes up to me and says, hey, what are you doing? We're taking care of Jean, not you. So he takes the ticket away from me and says, we're taking care of him. And I said, well, Jean gave me the ticket, because I knew him, and we're having a chat. So at that point, everyone was trying to control him.
Shades of Elvis here.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, even though they saw me, I'm talking with him. This is, this is that. They said, we're, and
isn't that a shame? And you did mention when we were off camera there a second ago that he said that he'd rather drive.
Yeah, he did. I mean, the whole thing is an interview. It's very selective. I mean, they did an interview. I think it was in House and Garden or something. A very small interview. And he said, I'd rather drive a New York City taxi any day of the week than have my artwork on a T-shirt. And now it's on Louis Vuitton luggage. It's just, we overdo everything in America. Yeah. And when he died in like 1988, his artwork, I mean, the last year of his life, I mean, it wasn't, you could buy it for nothing. He wasn't, it was, oh yeah, it was, I mean, it didn't command the huge prices that it does now.
Yes, yes.
And the thing about his work is, I mean, the theme of Jean's work is diseased culture, getting the black man and into this like diseased culture and this or that. And it turns out that people that have all the money that buy the work are the people that disease the culture the most. Yeah. They're paying these monies. It's almost like, you have you go into the jungle and you can't capture, the great beauty of a lion or a tiger, but so you want to kill it and hang it on your wall.
Yes.
Exactly. What was, I think it was Marcus Aurelius or something, said that an evil man will burn his own house down to rule over the ashes.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that, killing something to rule, have absolute power over it once they're gone. I know. But not wanting to give them the recognition why they're alive. It almost has to go through this kind of supercilious diatribe before, it's, it can be heard. That it has volition, has. Yeah.
So do I take it you were quite cynical about what was going on even within that group?
Oh yeah. It was all special interest or this, about that. It was really who you knew back then, and I thought the quality of the artwork would just stand for itself. I was a little bit naive, and so I didn't really kind of play the game. I was kind of outside the outsiders in some ways.
Yes.
So I kind of enjoyed that. And I didn't make huge money, but it was always enough just to keep me going. And I was never greedy for like wanting 50,000 a canvas or this or that. I sold a couple here and there to friends or this or that. It kept me going, and
Sure.
I taught for a while at high school, Immaculata High School. 11th and 12th grade art in New York City.
Did you?
Yeah.
And at what point did you come to Ireland, and why?
Well, I've been coming to Ireland probably every year since I was 4 or 5.
Oh, have you?
Every summer. My father's parents are from Longford, Roscommon, so we'd come over and see the aunts and the farm, and my cousins had the Harbor Bar in Bray, And
right.
my father was very close to my relatives. He came over here during the war to visit them. And so I always had a huge, connection with Ireland. And
they actually bought this place.
yeah, in the 80s.
Yeah.
Just, a floor,
Yeah,
and,
a floor,
property was not that big a deal in the 80s before that, another branded word, Celtic Tiger,
Sure.
But the Irish never had,
that.
the Irish never had money. Then all of a sudden, everyone's driving around with 3 Mercedes. They never thought they were going to have to pay it back.
I know. So did you make a move in any one particular year? You said, right, that's it. I'm finished with New York.
The crazy thing is Ireland has always been very good to me in terms of, I'm always showing here. I had a gallery that put my work in, I think it was called Trees in the early 80s at Kilmainham with the Carroll Gallery. They used to be in Longford, and I showed here with John Daly and the Cross Gallery. And always sold well. I'm in the Museum of Modern Art here, Trinity, National Library. So the work has always been received here in Ireland, and I'm here I'm influenced by the culture, cross-pollination, New York, Ireland, and I see how all the primitive cultures have a common thread. Okay. And just if mankind saw how beautiful and all the great things we have, hopefully we'd be more sensitivity to make some sensitive choices about healing one another.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And art bringing people together, and art, but of course, it's a grandiose idea, but it's better than taking the chance. If if everyone gives up, hope is a very, very powerful thing,
and very necessary.
Yeah. And it's like history. I asked my father once, "What's history?" He said, "It's just you and I talking."
That's it, exactly. Were there any? We talked about highs, and I know that you're actually doing an exhibition, aren't you? Back in Austria, am I right?
Yeah. Austria was good to me.
Yeah.
I'm doing a show there with it's actually funded by the Edward Munch Foundation. It's called No Institute, Norwegian NO Institute. So that's opening up. But that'll be a one-man show of my larger canvases.
And when is that, Brian?
That's opening November 22nd in Vienna, and the title of it is Algorithms of the Oracle.
Okay.
So,
and you actually have an exhibition on at the moment,
yes.
Oddly enough, across the road.
I have an exhibition on across the street now at the gallery, Wilton Gallery. Incredible people. Ritka and her husband have just done an absolute stellar job of promoting my work and seeing my vision and where it comes from and getting it out there into the community. Yeah, a fantastic job.
And they've taken over these buildings.
Kind of almost like a pop-up space. My neighbor Mick Quinn had acquired these buildings and generously donated them for the Bagatonia Festival. So I'm kind of I came up with the title Continuum because a lot of it's placing yourself. I mean, Patrick Kavanagh lived across the street. Francis Bacon was born up the road. And I'm living here now, so I'm part of that continuum of history. I mean, an artist or people can only be a link in a chain. Yeah. And also it's knowing where you place yourself and where your art fits in within the, kind of the...
So we've talked about the highs. Were there any lows that you had to overcome during your career?
Oh, plenty of lows. Plenty of low points. That it's up and down. My early paintings were about a roller coaster going around a volcano. Kind of very primitive. Before I got into using the silk screen, it was very, just very direct, painting. But I wanted to take it further. So once I started doodling and all these drawings, I transferred them, went through a process where I came up with different spellings, and it just created almost like a new form of cooking. Yeah. But I was using new colors like interference, iridescent, pearlescence. Like most paintings you see the same cadmium red, the same cerulean blue in every painting. I wanted to have different colors of paints, on the same plane. They almost created an aura or a wave of new color, almost like, Burroughs' idea of the third eye coming in. And I don't think about it, they just kind of appear. I work very quickly, almost, speed of concept, where I'm working, but I'm not thinking, so something else takes over, then I stop, and then it almost, as I look at it, it starts to come alive. It just starts to, visualize.
Let's see some examples of what you're actually talking about now.
Right.
Shall we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll stop at the moment, and then we'll just set up where we're going to go around the room. Okay. Okay, Brian. So, would you like to just show us around your studio and some examples of your work?
These are the works I've been working on right now.
Okay.
These are the newest ones. I've been working on these for the last 6 months, layering, and these are, Yeah, these are the newest ones kind of coming out of. This one actually is almost like a stone, almost like, you know, like a monolith. I've kind of painted the back around, so it's almost like the images that are coming out of a stone. It's almost like a tablet rather than kind of a painting. And again, building up the layers of the passageway, the tomb, you know, kind of passageways, doors of perception, you know, going into different layers, but still on the same plane.
And what about this large piece here?
A large piece.
Right
Well,
here.
this is a big one. It's kind of like my map of the U.S.
Ah, okay.
But, you know, have different things. And there's like jokes in it. I mean, images come after I painted it out. I was almost influenced by when I was in the National Museum and I saw all these bits of stained glass that they found around this old church. So you had, you know, different periods of stained glass that are just like fragments. And they put them all against like a black light box. So we had these little bits of stained glass coming out from, you know, different medieval, different periods that, you know, there were glasses in the church. And so after the painting, I took the black out like you're painting a wall or something like that. And I just left the bits that seemed interesting and the rest I painted out. So afterwards so this came out almost like a robot or a figure talking or like a bubble from a cartoon, you know, pointing out. And then this almost became like a letter, like a G. And this became almost like a map. And this became like a balcony. And this was like wires, kind of like wires or things under the thing. And like some more doodles. And this almost became like a jet engine, you know.
And in terms of materials, what are you using there?
I'm using a silk screen for some of the images. And I'm using like a trowel. And I'm using a paintbrush. And then I stretch it up when I'm finished. You know, so this is much bigger, and I took the stretcher and it just froze. Like I resized it. I just took an area, so I composed with the stretcher. A lot of times when you working on the square, I mean, you have the square, but when you do the painting and then you see it goes around to the edges of the painting is part of it. So it traps it. You know, then I'm surprised. It's almost like opening a Christmas present. All of a sudden, I put it down, I put the stretcher, and it's a new painting. And I have that sense of surprise that I don't have when I'm constantly working on the square. So in some ways, I'm randomly using the stretchers to, you know, to shock myself into new perspective. You know, just like, wow, this is a little bit different that I've never gotten working just with the square.
Yes. Okay.
So that's kind of, you know, one of the ways I work.
So this room, is this really a sitting room and where you're showing your art? You don't actually work here, do you?
Well, I work in periods. Like a lot of stuff is rolled up under here. I work here, I clear out here. I'll work for a couple of weeks. I'll roll it up, I'll clean the place up, you know, I'll reprocess what I'm doing and keep going on. So yeah, it's you know, kind of forces me to be a little organized. Where I was in Pennsylvania, I had a lot more space. Now I have to kind of, you know. So these are going on here. I'm actually working right now in a series of what I do a lot of the silk screens with, these like black and white doodles.
Yes.
You know, and then I have a screen made from them, like over here. So the screens will, you know, have like images here that are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the image, and then I use a lot of so like, you know, Pollock splattered paint. I'm like splattering these psychoanalytic drawings and doodles. So there'll be these black and white drawings, and then I'll make like a screen with them, and then like here. So this is, so then I can just without. So I'll take some of these and I'll maybe just use a part of it. I'll just I'll hit part of it. It'll come back. Whoa, a punctuation mark there. Or I could change the color, infinite amount of colors. There are as many colors in the world you could put.
So you can reuse that.
Reuse it, and like usually you do one drawing, it only gets up to one adventure. This one is about multiplicity of image and thousands. I mean, how many spellings can you come up with when you create your own language? You know, some words are more successful than others, but that goes into the process. So I'm building with the screens, and then I'll paint, or I'll go in. Or it's like jazz, it's improv. One thing leads to another. I don't try to figure it out. It tells me what to do while I'm doing it.
Okay.
And then I come up with different drawings or this or that. And they gestate. I mean, like this one, I was working on. It just didn't hit me. Then all of a sudden I had one screen, and it just needs one thing, and I just hit boom, one, and that changed the relationship to everything. And not overdoing it, one different one. So, and then there's different layers. So I don't like it, I'll paint it out, but I'll still have the texture. I'll still have my mark. So you're not really, there are no mistakes. You know, it's like, it's almost like a bouquet of mistakes.
I like that. There's no mistakes.
Yeah, but most people, but no timidity, no fear. Just fear, boom. If I don't like the color, something will tell me to change it. If I like it, keep it. You know, but you develop a language and you do it for years and years. It becomes a second nature to you. Painting this or that, you're not thinking about it. You're on automatic pilot. And you're adding influence as life goes on, and that's it. As Picasso said, what's life? It's just life against death. I mean, that's, you know, once you're gone, there's no more mark making.
Yeah.
You know, but the mark you've left.
Indeed. Is there anywhere else you'd like to show us?
Oh yeah, well, yeah, around here I'll show you. These where I'm working on some works here that are kind of black and white, kind of similar, more of a darker ones. This is a one. It's almost like a garden. Has a lot of the. And then, you know, things come afterwards. They're not intended. I see things in there like this. It's almost like a shirt. It was kind of like almost a nod to the album cover. I grew up with the Rising of the Moon that Louis Lebraque did, this shirt with like a blood on it, Songs of Rebellion. It just came in there. You know, I didn't plan on putting it in there. And this is almost like Joyce. The ironic thing is that all of a sudden these ghosts are peeking out.
Here, yeah.
But they're things I'm influenced by, but I never intended to put them in there.
Yes.
So then I realize I'm on the right track when the work starts speaking back to me. That's the dialogue I have with the work. And sometimes I won't see it till later on, but each time I see it with the color, there's something new in it. A lot of times in the painting, there's nothing new to see in it.
Yes.
So this is a constant, you know, push-pull of that type of stuff. Now here's an earlier one I did with where I was just reproducing the screen, you know, with one thing, and see that same, like the fish underwater, the passageway, that same screen is here. See, it's getting up to a different adventure with color. So that same image, you know, gets up to so many, you know, different lives, and, you know, some adventures are better than others, you know, in paint, some, you know. And these are, yeah, some more, this screen, gold, you know, mark making. This was a thing I had to show at the Copper House Gallery. This is a print they did. But again, same theme of the passageway, doors, in and out, but I'm constantly exploring, you know, it's also a joke on the square, but it's, you know, it's life going through these tunnels, and it's kind of like one of the themes in the work. Yes. And here was, see, these are something I'm getting ready for this book. So these were, so you have a lot of the drawings, you know, the black and white ones come here, there's some early ones. So these are kind of ones I'm getting ready for the book here. So these are, like, a lot of these will be, you know, blown up or made into a silk screen. And so I have, like, you know, 30 years of black and white drawings that I'm working on for the show at Gallery X in January. They're putting a book together of my kind of psychoanalytic drawings. So, and a lot of them I did on cards, and just trying to figure out the dates I did them. So they're just like stuff that's just, you know, in my consciousness, you know, that I've been working with. So that's been going on with that. And yeah, we have those in here. We have a larger painting in here. This is kind of...
These are all your books.
Yeah.
Your library.
Yeah, library of...
Yeah.
Yeah, they inform me. It's good to have the reference rather than the computer. The power doesn't go out on a book, you know. It's actually like the
as we discovered this morning.
Like the last show. I mean, like Rosque. I mean, supposedly Jean was going to come over, but Jean-Michel's last show actually was at the Rosque in '88. It was a great thing that they did, and really brought his influence over here. And you know that, and I'm influenced by stuff like, you know, Noth, you know, but like a lot of the, you know, I just go back to the books, you know. I mean, and each time you pick up a book, it's something new in it. Little fragment of this. So they really, you know, they inform me of the things. And like a larger one here, this is kind of a mini storeroom where this used to be an extra bedroom, but it's kind of been, it's kind of a staging area right now.
Yes.
Some did these. I did about 300 of these when I got here, just on paper, 3 or 4 a day, just pure color, and kind of juxtaposing the black on just like a color field. These were egg tempera, so they have a very strong color just on the back. So that's all right. So I'm working on those. Yeah. It's a little bit of a larger one, and
I can't get it all in, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, neither can I. Neither can I.
Yes.
So yeah, so those are some I'm working on, and I'm just trying to organize them now for a bit of a catalog. So many periods here. Earlier stuff, like when I was in Rome in the 80s, when I actually met Cy Twombly in Rome, went out and got drunk with him, one of the great moments of my life.
Really? Yeah.
So one of my mentors, and
Yes.
Rauschenberg, I knew Rauschenberg. And they would talk to me, this or that, look what I'm doing, and just gave me a little crumbs to, keep going, like elder statements, and hopefully I can do the same to, the other generation. So that's what I was working on. We have a larger one in here. This little, that's not here, but just up on the wall here, just it's kind of bedroom. I wouldn't want to get too much.
Wonderful, yes.
Yeah, so
no, that's okay. I'll just leave it here.
Yeah, so that...
Yeah.
It's almost like kind of a road map. A lot of times I'll take the paint or the oil stick around like it's a car, like I'm taking it out for a spin.
Yeah.
And it kind of maps the journey. Like a road. It's my internal road map of my emotions, and it's frozen there, and the journey is there like a map.
Yes.
And the work is also it's like hyperdimensional. I'm working with topography. I'm working with multiple viewpoints. It's almost shattered beyond cubism. So it's the cubism is breaking up the pictorial space, but I'm looking at it from different dimensions, and they're on the same plane. So
okay.
Yeah. And now there's some stuff up there. There's some smaller ones that I've been.
Sure.
Yeah.
Magnificent.
Okay.
That's great.
So that's.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting. I did it, I learned, I was going to do a trade with Jean-Michel. I was doing these Xerox books, and he was doing Xerox. He was taking Xerox and putting them on his things. And I met him on the street once, and he was outside of this place, it was a hair place called Untold Tales, and he was on his little bike. And I had a couple of my Xerox books with me, and I was heading off to Ireland. I just last encounter on the street with him. And I gave him one of the books. And he goes, man, I hope it's acid-free. It's acid-free. And I said, well, let's do a trade, And he said, yeah, well, come over and pick one. I gave him the book. And I said, keep the book. I have a great visual memory. I don't really need to own anything. I mean, everything's temporary if you wait long enough. So I just figured I had to be cooler than him. I should have taken it, but I didn't. So I just said, oh, here's one of my pieces. And, your work is always in my mind, so I don't really need to own it. Yeah. So if I could own one thing, but once I see something in a museum, that spirit's with me. I don't need to have the,
the physical.
Yeah, I don't need to have the horns on the wall.
Your trophy.
Yeah, you can't take it with you.
Yeah.
But you can take experience and the time and the influence,
yes.
With you. But at the end of the day, it's just stuff. It's just objects.
Sure.
And.
Brian, if you were to live over again, would you do anything different?
Oh, well, if I lived differently, the work wouldn't be what it is now. So, yeah, I'm kind of on the no regrets tour with it. I wish I was at this point when I was 20, but it's taken me all this time to get there.
Yeah.
And so I've enjoyed the journey. I've worked hard at it, and it's still evolving. I'm still ready to paint. I'm still going to do my best work now. So I'm excited for what's next.
Yes. And would you paint every day? Are you quite...
I'm kind of a binge painter. I do something. I'll do a drawing or something artistic every day. But usually I'll work for, I'll stay up for 3 or 4 days and do a lot of work. And then don't do anything, put it away, live a little bit, go back to the work. So it's, it's like I'm tending a lot of different stews, kind of.
And are you a night owl or an early bird?
I'm pretty much an early bird because... if I would sleep too late, my father was always on me. He said, Brian, you're sleeping your life away. Get up, get up. I mean, look how much work you can get done by 12.
Yes, yeah.
So it's kind of ingrained, the work ethic to get up early and accomplish something. Don't sleep your life away, and because it goes by so quick.
Sure, yeah. And what advice would you give to somebody starting out? Because
Well,
you know, it's a very difficult market.
It's very, very difficult, and everyone wants to be getting 20,000 canvas right at art school, you know, and it happens to some people, but very, very few. The best advice I can give is to be really involved in what you're doing, your own work, what you know, go with your instincts, your gut instincts. Look at as much painting as you can, absorb, almost have a mind like a steel trap. Read as much as you can about art, go out and see as much art as you can, travel to different cultures, and just be involved in what you're doing, not thinking, I need this exhibition, I have to be in this gallery, and be patient. And, you know, it will happen. It may not happen in a week, 2 weeks. It may happen in a week. It may not happen in 5 years. It may never happen. But, you know, you have to take the chance. You have to kind of increase your susceptibility to, like, you know, to chance. And the more times you do something, and the more you paint, the more you kind of evolve yourself from that. So be involved in what you're doing, and don't be disappointed if you don't get into a show, or you're not getting this, you know, much money for this or that. I mean, because, you know, it's very competitive out there, and it's, you know, not everyone, you know, rises to the top, you know, and a lot of people that are at the top, you know, got there by, you know, special interest and this or that. So you have great talent, you know, merged with special interest and stuff that's not really that good. But after people put a lot of money into mediocre work, they don't want to be told that they made the wrong decision. So you want to single out, you know, powerful people for being wrong in this tribal society. It can have very negative impact on your life.
Well put, well put.
So,
listen, Brian, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely, it was great. Thank you so much for absolutely everything here, and a chance to share my thoughts at this particular moment in my life with everybody.
Very good, thank you. Take care.
You're welcome.